So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to all of you joining us today for this exciting and insightful global webinar, Achieve More in 2025, Turn Your Goals into Reality, proudly organized by TIIKM Campus. So we are truly honored to have two highly experienced and respected professionals with us today, Dr. Loren O'Connor and Dr. Thierry Kolpin, who will be guiding us to set, pursue, and achieve our goals effectively in 2025. Now let's get to know the experts who will be leading us through today's session. And also this session is not just about listening, it's about engagement and interaction. So we encourage you all to actively participate and share your thoughts in the chat, ask questions at the end of the session, and make the most of this unique opportunity to learn from two exceptional professionals. So we have Dr. Loren O'Connor, who is a global consultant, Fulbright scholar, and retired assistant vice chancellor at Bradburn University. With degrees in psychology from the University of Southern California and Loyola Marymount University in psychology, Dr. O'Connor is a licensed marriage and family therapist, credentialed school counselor, administrator, and school psychologist. He also holds teaching credentials at elementary, secondary, and community college levels. He has worked in over 130 countries, advising universities, schools, and organizations. Dr. O'Connor was an associate professor teaching in the field of counseling, both on ground and online. One of his many accomplishments was serving as a university assistant vice chancellor, where he developed an office of accessible education that served over 25 university campuses in California and Washington. He is currently the president of the World Disabilities Rehabilitation Professional Association and a founding partner of Kolpin and O'Connor Global Consultants. Joining him is Dr. Thierry Kolpin, a clinical psychologist and associate professor at the University of Massachusetts Global with a doctorate from Stanford University. Dr. Kolpin's expertise spans school counseling, trauma support, accessible education, and crisis prevention. He has consulted for universities, community agencies, and disability services, and currently serves as Vice President of the World Disabilities Rehabilitation Professional Association. Dr. Kolpin was also inducted into the prestigious HP McDaniel Counselor Hall of Fame at Stanford University, recognizing his outstanding contributions to the counseling profession. He is also a founding partner of Kolpin and O'Connor Global Consultants, where he works alongside with Dr. O'Connor. So together, Dr. O'Connor and Dr. Kolpin will be leading today's interactive session, combining their insights, experiences, and practical strategies to help you take your 2025 goals from vision to reality. So let's officially welcome both of them as they take it from here.
Thank you for that warm introduction. We appreciate it. As you can see, we're and you guys can hear me okay? We're both very professional about this, and we'll be very clear about how we're going to discuss things with you, and then you can ask us questions later. Except really, we're more like, we want you to ask questions throughout. So we're not going to actually just sit here and dictate to you what the way to actually get your goals done and the way to get achievements made and be successful in life. What we're going to do is we're going to actually engage you in some conversations, and we're going to engage you some activities. We will talk to you about some of the things that we found in the research that really does help, but what we want to do is get you guys involved in this process. So in that vein, we're going to share with you our slides that will give us an idea a little bit about where we're coming from. There's going to be a theme for this, and you can see the beach is part of the theme for sure. But certainly ask questions throughout. We have a chat room available for you to just go ahead and ask questions there. If you want to ask a question in person, raise your hand. We'll unmute you, or you can unmute yourself, and we'll be happy to answer any questions as well. And that's kind of the way we operate. We'll certainly have time at the end to answer any questions too. So if you want to wait, that's fine as well. We unfortunately couldn't get you into breakout rooms because of the format, but typically would have put you in breakout rooms and had it even be more interactive. So as it is, we're just one big group and we'll talk and interact throughout. And so we're going to try to give you some information about how to make 2025 as best as you can. And trust us, from here in the States, we know that's a difficult task, especially after this past month. It's a very difficult task, but we're up to the challenge, and we're going to challenge you to actually make sure that your years is the best it can be. So in that vein, what we're going to be talking about is, like it said on the flyer, we're going to be talking about planning for success, which is kind of more looking at goal setting and really developing goals for yourself. We're going to talk about mastering time management, which is managing your time. You can't do this stuff without managing your time. Building a winning mindset is what is on the topic, and when we talk about that, we're talking about it's from up here. We're both psychologists. We're both practicing clinicians, and your winning mindset starts in here, but we can give you some tips on how to make in here work for you the best it can. And then we'll leave it up for questions and tips and takeaways at the end there. Again, this is who we are. I can give you a little bit more about myself. I'm currently a full-time faculty. I'm working at University of Massachusetts, develop some online programs for school counseling, school psychology. I also run a clinic up here in Washington, and I'm licensed in California and Washington and practice as a clinical psychologist along the West Coast. And I've been working with Dr. O'Connor for a while, and I'll let you take it, Dr. O'Connor.
Well, thank you so much. And I wanted to tell you how much I appreciate we're doing this workshop. I've been to Colombo now 6 times, and Sri Lanka is one of my favorite countries. I'm a huge traveler, and so I'm excited about talking with you all to encourage you on individual goals, both weekly, monthly, and yearly. So my background is certainly I was a vice chancellor overseeing disability services. I had about 1,000 students who had TBI, brain injuries, depression, anxiety, all kinds of different things. And so we wanted to make them successful. And with our consulting firm, we're working in Cambodia, Kenya, India. We were recently in American University of Iraq. So we do a lot of international work. So I'm very pleased to be here with you.
So you guys probably see it in the chat box. If you could go click on that chat link, and that will help us get a better sense of who you are as well. I mean, ideally, yes, we'd like everyone to have a chance to speak up and tell us where you're from, but we don't have that much time. We've got about an hour max, and that's far less now. We probably have about 30, 40 minutes max here. We don't want to go over. We know it's your Saturday. It's our Friday night here on the West Coast of the States. But if you can click on that link, and then that would give us an idea about who. I think can you guys see the chat box there? The chat, and see the link in the chat box? Is it in there for everyone to see? Denisha, can you see that?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, so if you guys can click on that and just respond to some of those questions, that would be really good, because that'll give us an idea again who you guys are, and that'll give us.
And Terry, if everybody enjoys this, we can always schedule a second workshop in the future.
This is true as well, absolutely. So why a presentation like this is important for you? A lot of you are thinking about business and about things going forward in your future, about how to make yourself successful in whatever you do. And a lot of you guys are doing different things. I understand there's people here from different countries doing different activities, enrolled online with some business courses and such. We take this theme. If you see the guy riding a wave there, so I'm a surfer. I like to surf. I've surfed in Sri Lanka and in all over the States and Europe and Wallagama Bay, yeah. And what we're trying to do is to help you guys. As a surfer, I always want the best wave, and I want to be able to keep paddling until I get that good wave. But it doesn't mean I don't enjoy the process the whole time. For you guys and where you're headed, and everyone here where you're headed, we want you to be enjoying the process of where you're headed. You aren't going to get the best wave every time you try to go for it, whatever your goals are. But it doesn't mean you don't try for it. That wouldn't work if you're into a sport like surfing. You have to keep trying for it, and you can enjoy the process the whole time. You just have to have that mindset. So why this is important? Because we want to put you and help you to get that mindset of you can do this. You can go for your goals, and even the process of going for them can be exciting and fulfilling. And we want to kind of give you some tips on how to make sure that happens. So you are going to see a little bit of surfing reference here in order to kind of encourage you to move forward in that respect. So when we talked about managing your time, and we talked about planning your future, and we said goals and time management are key. However, when we talk about goals, we also have to talk about our values. And when we talk about time management, we have to talk about behavior. It works that way. I mean, for example, Loren, Dr. O'Connor, can you give us an example of some of your values and how they affect your goals? That just so people are in the same mind frame.
Certainly. As a small child, I always wanted to travel. Okay. So I've been to about 138 countries, and my goal is 200. I'm still working on that. But what I really wanted to do was meet people throughout the world and learn more about cultures, languages. And so in order to do that, I had to get education so I could make money, so I could travel, and also look into jobs that would allow me to do traveling and consulting. Okay, so I really do daily goals, weekly, monthly, and yearly. Okay, so for me, I'm a little obsessive about that because then I can kind of cross off things and make it happen. And that's what I want to encourage you to come up with your values and goals. What is important to you professionally, personally, family-wise? That's exciting and can be very rewarding. And I find that you can be successful with that.
And I know we've got people here from South Africa and obviously throughout Sri Lanka. We have people that are actually looking at just wanting to be entrepreneurs. They want to be financially independent, and you want to be successful. I mean, the theme that I'm getting from your responses is that you guys are interested in being successful in whatever area that you are at, and you want to thrive in that area. And for most of you, it looks like you're spending well over 50% of your time towards your goal, which is feasible. That makes sense. We obviously, it's hard to spend 100% of your time on one goal. However, you might be giving yourself not enough credit for how much time you do spend towards your goal, and we'll cover that a little bit more as we move forward as well. Another thing we want to go ahead.
Gary, if I can add, you'll find your most successful people in the world, whether they're executives, doctors, whatever it may be, they truly have identified their goals, taken their time management, because they never have enough time in 24 hours. So it really, you can be very successful with this. And for you to be here on a Saturday morning in Sri Lanka or other countries, and by the way, I love South Africa. We do a lot of work with the University of Cape Town. It's important to realize that you can reach these goals, but if you identify them very carefully, it can be very successful.
Okay, so now I'm going to actually have another place for you guys to click on the chat room, and this is going to help us get an idea about what your values are, because as I was saying earlier, when we talk about goals, you can't talk about goals unless you look at what your values are. Now you're going to see a list. If you click on that in the chat room, you're going to see a list of values. That's not a comprehensive list. There's so many values out there that we couldn't fit it all on one screen, or let alone even talk about all of them in one presentation. But there's some general values that we can think about. For example, what we're seeing on the screen now a lot of people look at that as core values. Value, trust, responsibility, ethics, trust, honesty, integrity, commitment. These things are things that people think about as these are important for them, not just in their personal lives, but also in their professional lives. When you have an idea what your values are, that's going to help you with your goals, because I can promise you this, and as a psychologist, and I know Dr. O'Connor can attest to this as well, if your goals are not aligned with your values, it's going to be really hard to accomplish those things. So you have to have those things aligned. And now some of you are like, well, that's pretty basic. Of course they're aligned with my values. How could they not be? You'd be surprised how many people think about their values in a whole list, and all of a sudden they put it to where their goal is. And they're like, wait a second, that doesn't necessarily fit all the time, or it even
And,
doesn't fit 50% of the time.
and Terry, an important thing is not all of your friends, family members, other people are going to agree with your values or your goals. And what I would encourage you to be very successful is to have really good self-esteem and a self-concept. Not to worry, so many times people, and I see this as a therapist, worry about what everybody else is thinking, okay? It's important for you to identify your values and your goals, what you want to do, okay, in order to be successful. That doesn't mean you have to be rude to people or, have problems with them, but you are the most important person to take a look at in order so you can develop yourself to the best of your ability.
And interestingly enough, when I look at the responses that you guys are giving, the majority of you are saying being financially secure is one of your top values, and having purpose and meaning in life is another one. Those two, if maybe I can show you guys the chart. I'll show it to you
These are
later.
these are business people. That's what they're interested in.
Well, but having purpose and meaning in life and having being financially secure are the most important. There's other ones that are high up there. Family relationships are really good. Feeling good about themselves are pretty high. That's like, those are the second most. And then again, success and career fits that. But the list you see that we have, obviously, it's not comprehensive, but it is clear that, yeah, being business folks, you would want to be financially secure, but also having purpose and meaning, I think that can align with being financially secure as well. So when you think about values, they don't have to be completely independent of each other. A lot of folks here, the third most popular is helping others, though. So as professionals in the helping profession, we appreciate that. So thank you.
Yeah, because both Terry and I work tremendously with people with challenges, whether it's a learning disability or TBI or depression. As therapists, we certainly do that. So I I had that feeling as a kid I was the one in elementary, middle school, and high school that always had friends who are deaf or visual impairment. I just always was attracted to people like that to help them and make sure that they could be successful and inclusion. So I think a lot of you may be able to relate to that.
So when we talk about values clarification, you are going to hear people talk about personal values, and you're going to hear people talk about professional values. Um, like I said earlier, they're not necessarily completely independent. You can have values that are going to be good for both your personal space and that are going to be good for your professional space. Um, and so when I'm looking at the values that you guys selected, being financially secure, that helps from a personal standpoint. There's no question. We did a study here in the States, excuse me, a study here in the States, and we found that we were looking at happiness. What does happiness mean? And how does it relate to income? And they found that if people had more money, up to a certain percentage of wealth, it really did increase their happiness scale. After a certain point, that financial incentive didn't affect how happy they were. It's a pretty high bar point, but it didn't affect it. So what that means is everyone needs to have a certain amount of money just to get the bare basics met. When people can have that security, then they can start working on other things. So it affects your personal sense of happiness, and it's a professional value that you want to be successful and independent. So those two are totally connected, and it makes sense. And if those are my values, of course it's going to shape my goals. So it makes sense that you guys would want to have a goal that's going to be addressing something that's going to be advantageous to those values. Being an entrepreneur, being successful in business. If those are your goals, then that makes sense. It aligns with your values. So you're in good shape. When they're aligned, it's a lot easier to get motivated and to work on it on a more regular basis when you know they're aligned. Go ahead, Loren.
And Terry, I'm not sure how this fits in, but I do want to say it, okay? One of the things that motivated me when I was a child, my father was a mortician, okay? And when my grandparents couldn't babysit me, they would take me to the funeral homes. And so I literally saw children and adults who had passed away. And I learned probably at the age of 10 or 11, life is very short and things can change in a minute, and that you live every single day to the very, very fullest. Okay. And so I've always done that. And I've always had the different goals and dreams. First, I wanted to be a school counselor. So I would pretend, I almost pretended, okay, I'm a school counselor, but I figured out what I had to do to get the degree, where I could be successful. And again, travel, I was very interested in that. So I ended up in the Netherlands student teaching when I was in university. Okay. And then I was a Fulbright scholar and went to India. And then I went with a British group and drove from London to Kathmandu, Nepal, I think 10,000 miles. So my point is, you really want to celebrate your life and those of your family members, but really take it a day at a time.
And your values, of what I'm seeing on this list, is your values kind of meet that idea of taking it a day at a time. And if you take it a day at a time and you enjoy those small successes, day-to-day successes, even if they're just small, you're going to enjoy the process better. And then you're going to be able to catch the bigger wave when it shows up. So when you're a surfer, you actually look out and you decide, where am I going to paddle out to catch a wave? And for your goals, like for a surfer, my goal is going to be, I want to make sure I go out in that direction because that's where I'm going to catch the best wave. For you guys, I can see that your goal is, which direction am I going to head to be most successful in my business or in my professional sense? Because I want it to align with not just my professional values, but my personal values. So where am I going to do this? Now, when you think about goals, we divide them into short-term and long-term goals, personal and professional goals as well. When we divvy these up and we say it, we describe it the way we're describing it, there's benefits to describing it this way. There's benefits to you being motivated to continue on with your goals if you can describe them in these ways. So, for example, personal goals. So a personal goal could easily be something like improving physical health, enhancing mental well-being, strengthening relationships, learning a skill or a hobby, increasing financial literacy. So all these are examples of personal goals that people may or may not have. There's no way you're going to convince me that improving your physical health is not going to increase your professional goal. Of course it is. If I'm physically healthy, my professional goal is more likely to be attained. So of course I want to be physically healthy. If my mental well-being is better, I'm going to succeed better in my business. So even though we say there's a difference between personal and professional goals, there is, but keep in mind they interact a lot. And it's
They
okay to
blend,
have those personal goals.
yeah, they blend together,
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to be clear on both of them, but they really do blend together. And the mental health well-being is really important because we're both psychologists and therapists. We see a number of people with depression and anxiety and sometimes being overwhelmed. And we see a lot of individuals with thoughts of suicide. So it's really important that you do have that mental well-being and that you do the things to take care of yourself.
And we can talk about that from a professional standpoint because there's a lot of professionals in our field of mental health in the States. We have one of the largest groups of people that suicide. Psychologists and counselors are some of the largest people that suicide. I teach a graduate program in school psychology and school counseling, and One of my biggest components of that program is to teach people about self-care. In fact, it's such a strong component that I was working with the state of California, and we wrote it into the law that every program in California has to have a self-care component for school counselors. They have to have it now because it's that important. If you don't take care of yourself, you're more likely to end up hurting yourself because it's a tough field to be in. So professional goals definitely overlap with. So enhancing communication skills. Again, you're gonna be hard pressed. It's gonna be difficult for you to convince me that if you enhance your communication skills, it doesn't improve your personal life as well. Of course it will. If you are improving your time management, your productivity, that's going to help your personal goals as well. So these things can overlap, but they are definitely things that can be different in a way that how much you want to focus your time on it. But here are some examples of professional goals that a lot of people have. So having set what your goals are is going to be helpful. I know we only asked you to put down 1 or 2 goals on the sheet. We don't have the time to go over all the different goals and potential, but most of you do have at least one specific goal that you're really focused on. And that's okay. For what we're doing here today, that's perfect. Think about the values associated with the goal that you put down, or the goal that you believe, the professional goal that you put down. If you haven't put one down, think about a professional goal and how those values align with it. Then we need to talk about short-term and long-term goals. So a lot of people would say, well, long-term goals take several years. They can, but it doesn't have to be. You could have a long-term goal that could be 6 months. The key difference, what I like to associate, so the chart you see here, the graphics you see here are pretty standard. Those are what most people talk about when they say long-term or short-term. But if I took some of your goals that you guys listed,
Harry, can you read a few of the goals?
That people listed?
Yeah,
Sure. I'm just
to
getting to
give
them
the
now.
group a feel. And we can talk about these too when we, end up talking with each other near the end.
Yeah, hold on a second, guys. I'm just managing my site. So let me share with you guys some of your goals. So someone wants to be a professor. Someone wants to be a CEO of a thriving company. Someone wants to be an entrepreneur, start a clinical laboratory, join a logistic directorate in the Navy. Interesting. Someone wants to be a lawyer. Someone wants to also be a professor. Another professor. Wow, you guys got some faculty here. We're in like minds. Someone wants to just impact people's lives positively, and someone wants to be a researcher, and someone wants to be a business person. So those are all like long-term goals. Every one of those that I listed would be considered long-term goals, which are all great. Those are cool goals to have. This is where it's important to think about long-term and short-term. And I can tell you that the research backs this. We've done research with college students. We have over 20,000 participants in one study that I worked with that showed when people break up their long-term goals into short-term goals, they're smaller steps, basically, to reach the long-term. They're more likely to get the long-term goal. If you just focus on the long-term, you're not doing yourself justice. You're not giving yourself enough credit. So make some short-term goals that kind of align with it. And some of you are doing that now. I mean, taking a course in business aligns with a lot of the goals that I'm seeing there. That's a short-term goal. You can see it as a step towards your long-term goal. It doesn't have to take a lot of time, but the short-term successes help motivate people to get to that long-term goal. You have to be enjoying the process. Like I told you before, if I was just surfing to catch the perfect wave, I would end up spending most of my time paddling in the water. But I'm enjoying every wave I surf. It doesn't have to be perfect because every wave is enjoyable. Every goal that you complete, every short-term goal, every small step is enjoyable. Enjoy your successes. Go ahead, Loren.
Yeah, I would encourage all of you to attend conferences or workshops or business meetings. In other words, so you can do networking. I know everybody uses the word networking, but that's a good way for you to meet people. For instance, I didn't have a desire to be a professor at first, and then someone said, "Oh, come on, you need to teach a class for us in marriage and family counseling. You're an expert there." And so I did it. I loved it. Okay, and then I started teaching more classes, but a lot of it came from meeting different professors, meeting deans. uh, it's a very good way if you're able to network, and then you can share with other people, what are your goals, kind of like what Terry's talking about. You all have some similar goals and everything. Having other people mentor you, and or you eventually mentoring people, also is a great way to feel good about yourself, to feel successful, and to help other people too. I think that's a very important variable that we look at in success.
So here's some examples of some short-term goals that you might find that gives you examples of what they are. So exercise routine, hugely important. I'll talk about that at the end. And I know we're not going to have a lot of time left, but I'll talk about that a little bit. Organization, organize a specific area. So that could be a short-term goal. You could see if your house, for example, organize my home office this weekend. If your office is in better shape, you're going to be better able to work on that long-term goal. It's hard to manage if everything's chaos initially. So give yourself credit. Organize your office at home, and then open up a bottle of champagne and say, I did that goal. It can be non-alcoholic. You don't have to drink alcohol. So that would be good. That's healthy. That's what we're encouraging you to do, is celebrate. If your goal is to exercise, you should be able to leave that gym every time smiling. I work out all the time. I'm constantly at the gym. And there's not a day that I go out of the gym that I'm like, I feel better. It always feels better. It's the same thing with surfing. I've been surfing for 50 years, and there's someone here that has a goal that wants to surf. I'm with you. If I can tell you, I have never gotten out of the ocean and said, wow, I wish I didn't do that. And I've broken bones. I've gotten stung by stingrays and by jellyfish, and I still have never said, "Oh, I'm glad I didn't go surfing," or it doesn't happen. I'm always happy to go out there. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't like to get pained. I'm not interested in that. But it doesn't mean I don't enjoy the fact that I go out there and really enjoy being out in the surf or going to the gym for my short-term goals. Long-term goals, here's some examples of long-term goals. Some of you have already said this, right? Financial independence, senior leadership positions. Some people might even want to write a book. You don't write a book in a day. You don't write a book in a year. I'm working on a project with some folks across the globe right now. There's folks from Sri Lanka, China, Korea, Belarus, and we're working on a book. It's going to take us several years, but that's okay. That's the goal, is to write the book and publish it. So it doesn't have to be done right away. When someone says, I'm going to write a book this year, I'm very questioning. Now, there are some authors that can do it, but they're kind of well-versed. It takes people a long time. So what are the processes to get to writing a book? Well, it's not that we just all of a sudden start doing it. We have to have meetings. We have to delegate who does what chapters. We have to do research. All those are small goals. To be a senior leadership position, you're not just going to get it because you apply for it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know it can happen, but it doesn't happen very often. You have to earn your way to getting to that point. And same with financial independence. So you get the sense of what long-term goals are. Now, if you guys are in a business program, you're going to see this. It's just a common acronym that we see all over the place when we talk about goals. SMART. In other words, goals need to be specific, they need to be measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So your long-term goals, everything that you guys mentioned, are considered SMART. If you told me all of the goals that we just listed off that you guys put in the chat or put in that link, if you said those were short-term goals, I wouldn't say they would fit under the SMART headline because short-term, that's going to be a process. Like even if someone wants to learn to surf, you just don't go and surf and now that's it. I'm a surfer now. It takes it takes time, it takes practice. So it's a good short-term goal to go to the beach and paddle out with a board and a wave and try to surf one wave. That's great.
So Terry, are you telling me I need to go to 60 more foreign countries? Okay. Are you telling me I can't do that all in 6 months?
I'm telling you, you can't do it all in 6 months. That's not considered a smart short-term goal, but it is a
Okay, so
smart long-term goal. Yes.
six a year for 10 years. How's that?
That's a smart long-term goal with short-term goals and steps intermittent. That's perfect. Yes, that's
Works
a good
for me.
example.
Works for
So
me.
that now you're being smart. We want you guys to be smart. Use the SMART acronym. Make sure that your short-term goals can be very specific. What was the one we read? Someone's going to organize their house, their office. It's specific. They can measure it by the fact that it's clean. It's attainable because they know they can do it. It's realistic because it needs to be done. And it's time bound because they're going to do it over the weekend. That's a smart short-term goal. A long-term goal, I've got a lot of people here that want to, be financially secure and independent. As a long-term goal, that's a good one. It's specific. You're looking for financial independence. It's measurable, sure, because you're going to be independent of having the need to have other people's money. It's attainable because we see people do it all the time. It's realistic because, well, I suspect it's realistic for most folks. Otherwise, I wouldn't have put it down. But it is time bound in a sense that you want to do it before you're 100 years old. You want to do it before you're 80. You probably want to do it before you're 50. So there is some
Terry,
time component to it. Go ahead.
yeah, I can give you an example. I always watched one of my uncles who bought real estate, and I thought, oh, well, I could never afford to do that. So when we were very young, we started looking for like a rundown apartment building or a rundown condominium, or where people had to sell something, and we would go in and fix it up, rent it out, fix it up, rent it out. And we were able to build some security because of that through real estate. Okay, so that was a combination of short-term goals, then long-term, okay, learning
Exactly.
about real estate, getting your real estate license, networking with other people who've done it, going to the different shows where they redo houses and things like that. So that's a good example of individual goals, part-time, long-term,
Yep.
10 years, 15 years, and building that security, which I'm thinking a lot of these people are fairly young individuals who they want to have the security for their family and their loved ones. So that's an important thing to look at from a professional point of view. What can you do to be successful and secure?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then when you think about the goal setting process, there's some things that we really encourage. It's good to write things down or type them down on your computer. Look at trying to make sure you have short-term goals to build up to your long-term goals. You give yourself rewards, like I said earlier, bottle shampoo. It doesn't, whatever rewards help with you. Everyone's going to have their own personal rewards. So when you complete something small, reward yourself. It's okay. It doesn't have to, it can be just a pat on the back, but it can be more too. But it is important to visualize that goal. For, if someone wants to be a surfer, it's likely that they're going to visualize themselves surfing. If someone wants to be an executive of a corporation, it's good to be able to visualize being ahead of that corporation. We have to, and you don't want to give up on it. Those long-term goals, don't give up on it, but visualizing it, put it in your head and thinking about it, like, okay, I can see myself in that position. So with that said, we're going to try that for a second. You guys all have stated a goal. If you haven't, think about a goal that you have. Think about a goal that you have right now. And what I want you to do is close your eyes, and we're going to listen to a sound bowl. And this is basically just someone working with a sound bowl to help us be in a space where we can think about where we want to be. So you'd close your eyes while I play this and listen to my voice, and I'm going to guide you into your long-term goal. Imagine where you want to be. And it's just going to take a few, not even 30 seconds, maybe a minute. So try to keep your eyes down, close your eyes. And when you imagine that you're in a space where you've achieved your goal, what I want you to do is look around in your mind. What do you see? Where are you? Where are you sitting? Are you standing? Are there people around you when you've achieved this goal? Are you inside? Are you outside? How do you feel now that you've achieved that goal? When you visualize yourself achieving that, you've reached that goal, how do you feel? How about the people around you? That's visualizing your goal. That's taking the time to visualize and seeing where you're at. And you need to be able to do that on the regular basis. And there's actually more to it than just doing it once like that too. There's a lot of benefits from it actually. Go ahead.
Terry, can we give the attendees the PowerPoint
Yeah,
so
of
that they
course.
have all this information? That would be nice.
Sure. So I know we're gonna whip through this quick because I know you guys are like Saturday morning, you're done. Time management, obviously we didn't manage our time with you guys today very well. My apologies. But we can run through this pretty quick because time management is about managing your time. You need to be able to manage your time because it will increase your productivity. It does reduce stress. We're psychologists. We can tell you people that manage their time effectively are less stressed. People that are always rushing and feeling like they can never get anything done, they usually are pretty stressed. So it does help with reducing stress. It helps with decision making because if you don't manage your time so that you have time to make a decision, then it's no longer decision making, then it's problem solving. There's a difference between decision making and problem solving. It's a problem because you have to do it right away. It's a decision when you have time to think about it. I'm buying a new car. I have a method of buying a car for myself, which is I never go in and talk to someone and say, oh, I'm going to buy the car right now. I always tell them, I'm going to sleep on it because it's a decision I want to make. It's not a problem I have. If I need a car like right away, like today, then maybe I'll rent one, or if I have to buy one right away because I have to drive across the country, that's a problem. That's a different type of decision making. That's a different type of process, problem solving process. But if I have the time to make a decision, it's because I have made good time management choices. And we want to encourage your behavior to be making good time management choices. Like showing up here is time management. You showed up. Congratulations. Good for you. You're managing your time effectively. It also is important to enhance work-life balance. I told you before that we're in a profession, Dr. Connor and myself, that there's a lot of people that suicide. They take their own lives because the job is too intense. I would pretty much guarantee that they haven't succeeded in enhancing a work-life balance. Because when people spend way too much time on work, that's where they end up having bad mental health problems. So we would encourage time management because it helps with that. And not the least of all is it does help achieve your goals if you manage your time. Now, we could do a whole nother presentation on how to do time management day to day, but it is something that you can do. You can find stuff online, and we would be happy to come back and talk more about it. But clearly, you need to be able to manage your time. Now, how do you do it? These are just some steps that you can basically make sure you follow. Prioritize what you want to do. If you have goals, prioritize your goals. A lot of you guys put down there that you're spending 50% on your goals. I would push you to say, you know what? Why not spend 75% on the goals that you want? If you're practicing the whole process of short-term goals to long-term goals, you get to count that as 100%. You might be spending every day working on it at some level. Not that you have to, but if you're doing it right and you're taking care of yourself, then you can. So prioritize where you want to spend your time. Go ahead.
Terry, you make some good points. Uh, Mental health is a major issue in the US and many other countries. So it's very important that you take care of yourself. And like I said before, not to be totally worried about what everybody else is thinking or trying to please a lot of people. In some cultures, You never put yourself first, you put yourself second, third, or fourth. That kind of dilutes your ability to get to the goals that you want to, okay? It's not being selfish or narcissistic. It simply is looking at what is going to benefit you. And if you're happy and financially in good shape, you can mentor other people, you can mentor kids, you can help your family members. One of the things I was always interested in helping people in countries where they haven't been successful and they've had war or whatever. So we basically uh, adopted a young man and put him through his bachelor's in Cambodia, his master's, and his PhD. And now he's become a dean at a university. He's got 4 wonderful kids. And just to see the success after the Khmer Rouge, and he lost his parents and things like that. So if you're financially secure and you're feeling comfortable and your mental health is really good, you can reach out and help quite a few people. You don't have to be a psychologist or therapist or social worker. You can be an executive and bring in people with disabilities and create inclusion programs. So there's many wonderful things you can do as long as you're taking care of yourself, saying no to people, do not hang around negative people, surround yourself with people who may have similar goals or that same motivation. Incredibly important.
Now, someone asked, what strategies do you suggest for staying motivated when goals starts to feel overwhelming? Uh, if you're practicing these steps, hopefully we don't get to that point where it's overwhelming, but I can assure you that break it into smaller goals. Break it into small goals, because if it feels overwhelming because it's probably that big, make sure you have small steps and count them as goals. Small steps towards your goals, but they're short-term goals. Make sure you have those, because if you just have a long-term goal, you're setting yourself up. That would be my answer to that question. And I know we're going to run out of time here in a second, but
Carrie,
I don't know if,
we can extend a little bit.
Denisha, is it okay if we extend it? We're not going to get cut off?
No, no, it's fine.
Okay, all right.
You're not going to drop us.
Oh,
So once you've actually found a spot to surf and you start paddling out to that wave, then you get to ride your wave. So setting your goals is planning for success. Time management is mastering your time. And you can't forget about what Loren and Dr. O'Connor just said is self-care and being respectful of mental health. That's building building a winning mindset. So what we've done, and we do presentations on this as well, which is basically making sure that you're practicing self-care. We developed the 7 factors of self-care, which are these 7 factors. Each one of these, we have all sorts of information on this. We can talk about it again later, but if you're taking care of your physical fitness, you're taking care of your diet, you're taking care of your mindfulness, and you're being mindful, whether it's faith-based or whether it's some type of mindful activity. If you're associating with friends and family and you're having a social interactions, if your finances aren't too crazy, but at least you're focused on them a little bit, even if you're in debt, it's better to actually pay a little bit towards a debt than to do nothing at all. It makes you mentally feel better, and making sure that you're falling asleep and staying asleep okay, because if your sleep's affected, that's going to affect your self-care. And then make sure you're having fun. And we talked about this the whole time, is every goal, we want you to have fun with it. If you're doing these things, then you're doing a winning mindset. If you're doing this, you're not going to end up with a bad problem with self-care. You're taking care of yourself. Go ahead, Loren.
Um, I think the mental health is something that we need to really take a look at, because I think some of the people are from developing countries where finances are a little bit tight and there's a lot of competition. So it's important to deal with any type of anxiety or depression or feeling overwhelmed, or some of you probably are in stressful situations financially and you want to get out of that. And so again, that's why the short-term goals can be very important. The networking can be important, and really creating friendships where you can talk about if you're being depressed or a little overwhelmed. Certainly, if it's in depth, you could always get some counseling or support, but it's important to have those friends who you can share and talk with. Hey, I had a great day. Things are going really good. I just did this and I did that. Or if you're, I'm not doing well, with a relationship, and be able to talk through it. So I think that's very, very important.
All right. Now you guys can go surf, man. All right, so we told you we'll stay as long as you'd like to answer any questions. I know we went over the hour just a little bit, but we do want to allow time to ask any questions. You can actually put them in the chat box. You can ask in the question answer, or you can unmute if you'd like and just ask a question as well. But thank you for taking the time to listen to us for this past hour. I hope it's been of a little help for you all. We'll if you actually gave us your email address in that chat link. We asked for your email address. If you did that, we'll send you a link to the presentation. If you didn't do it, there's still time. Just click on that link. It's the BYE. That's the acronym that they gave us here. It's best year ever information sheet. If you fill that out and put your email address, we'll be able to give you guys a link to this as well.
Terry,
So is there, go ahead.
Do you want to give them our email address?
We can do that too, yes. Actually, I'm pretty sure, Denisha, do you have everyone's email address here?
I do. I can actually share it with you.
Okay, so we can send it to them. Then, Lauren, we'll send it to everyone for sure. That's a good idea.
Do we have some questions or thoughts?
All right, you guys. Well, good luck on your endeavors. Good luck on your goals. If you guys have any questions, you can always email us as well. We'll send that to you. We'll send you our emails.
There was a hand
Oh, was
up.
there? Oh, I didn't see it. My
See
bad.
it?
Let me stop sharing. I can do that. Hold on. That's probably why.
We'd encourage you if you have any questions or input or recommendations. We're always happy to.
There we
Remember,
go.
professors, so we encourage students to talk and
All right,
chat.
questions. Who had their hand up? Now I can see y'all. We have a question in the very. So there was a question about wanting to publish articles, but motivation's never there, sitting down and reading something and just zoning out. So I've published several articles and several things in different arenas. It depends if you're doing it. If you're doing it by yourself, then start with an outline of what you want to write about. And if you're not blogging, if you don't have a blog, it's a great way to start getting in the habit of writing. I work with several people that write profusely, and they all have blogs. So every day they kind of get themselves, it's a routine. They go into the center, they go into online, they go to their blog, and they just type in whatever it is. It's a good way to get in the process of always writing and having people read your writing. Even if no one's reading your blog, you still think that someone's reading it. So it gives you that mindset. If you can do that, and you don't have to start with that. If that's a longer term goal, start with just, hey, I'm just going to write my own blog and not publish it. So every day I'm just going to write my thoughts about this topic, and then flesh out an article that you'd like to do based on your interest, and then you can build that. So it's just one way to do it, but yeah, you can do that. There's no reason why you can't publish stuff, but you do want to get in the habit of writing a lot. That's what I find with most publishers is that, or most people that publish, is they write a lot. So I would do that for sure.
And if you're rejected, just keep working at it, okay? Because
absolutely, yeah.
Publishing is competitive. It depends what you want to do, journals, or you want to design a book or whatever. You just have to keep working and keep working, okay? You know, you see a lot of these people on TV shows who said, if I can do it, you know, you see the Academy Awards, and they say, if I can become an actor, you can become an actor. It's still very competitive, but you just have to have a lot of faith in yourself.
But writing is actually becoming easier because of the internet. So allow yourself the opportunity to start writing quite a bit. I mean, even if you just did 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day of blogging, that's a start. So make those small term goals to get to a bigger goal for sure.
It's our next question, Terry. I see a few
If
of them.
someone feels stuck halfway through the year, what's the first thing they should do to get back on track? Well, halfway through the year, it really depends on your goal. Again, if you're stuck on if you're not motivated, there's one of the things, we didn't have a lot of time to go into specifics, but when you're going for a long-term goal, you always want to be able to get to a point where you want to allow yourself to be at a point where you can reevaluate. Our values change. It's not succinct. My values that I had when I was 20 are not the same values I have now that I'm 30. Okay, I'm older than 30. But
Oh,
values
wishful thinking.
values can change. So allow yourself to change your goals. If you're not motivated for it, if it's maybe that's not the right goal for you, look at your values again. There's plenty of free values clarification exercises you can do online, and they'll send you results. You don't have to pay for if they're asking for money, don't do it. There's enough free stuff out there. You can get a values clarification from online and make sure they match your goals. So yeah, I wouldn't give up on it. And Dr. O'Connor is absolutely right. Don't give up. You can change your goals, but don't give up on your goals. Giving up is not it shouldn't be an answer.
Remember, Terry mentioned like baby steps, okay? Like I decided I wanted to get a PhD, okay? And then because I wanted to be a professor also. And in the US, you pretty much have to have a doctorate to get hired into a top university. So your long-term goal is I want to be a doctor so-and-so. Well, you have to do your bachelor's, you have to do your master's, you have to do your PhD, okay? So you have to kind of build that out. And you don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to do it all by the time you're 24 or 25. Uh, and again, so those baby steps and short-term goals. And then you can always reevaluate, is this something I really want? Is this the goal I really want? I don't want to see giving up, but you might want to change things. Terry, I saw something in there about a slow learner. Can you read that one?
What if you're a slow learner and even if you set small goals to achieve the big one, you cannot complete it with given time, study related, and then again you get stressed just because it takes so much time to learn?
I think we both could probably answer that one.
I'm
By
going to let you
slow,
start first on it. Yeah.
okay, slow learner. Okay, that could be somebody with a learning disability, a visual processing disorder, auditory processing disorder. As I was a psychologist in the schools, I was the one who would test and say, "Mom and Dad, your kid has a learning disability or attention deficit disorder." Okay, in many of the developing countries that I've been to, when we were in Iraq, they had no services for university students with disabilities. In the U.S., we have Americans with a Disability Act. You have services, you can get support, all kinds of things. So the question would be is it maybe a learning disability? Is it a psychological issue? Or is it that some things come to you a little bit more slowly than others? You'd want to take a look at what are your goals? Do you need tutoring? I remember my wife helped one of her friends' kids who was 20 and wanted to become a fireman, okay? He had terrible learning disabilities. He really had trouble reading. So she tutored him and tutored him and tutored him, and he passed the tests, okay? So I think you need to take a look at, can other people help you? Can they give you tutoring? Can they give you guidance? What can they do to help you?
I'm going to actually put in here, it's a link to, it's not the best one, but it is one. It's the Learning Disabilities Association of America. Read about that and see what they have to offer and check out the links that they have. You might find that you might be a slow learner, but there's a lot of people that think they're slow learners. And I can give you my own example. I was not, I have a learning disability, and it has to do with my writing competencies and abilities. Um, but I found out about it when I was doing my graduate work, and because I found out about it, I was able to get into Stanford University's doctoral program and complete a doctorate in counseling psychology, um, and do it, with four, straight A's, because I know what I'm working
Terry,
with.
Terry is very gifted and very bright, but you don't want him to check your spelling. Thank God for spell check.
Oh my gosh, I would not be around if it wasn't for spell
Yeah.
check. Uh, Now, the other thing I will say is you you might think you're setting a small goal to achieve a big one, but if you're not completing the small goal, then break it up even smaller. There's no reason you can't make them even smaller because you need to have that success. It becomes a mental block if we don't feel we're succeeding, what you're explaining to me. So I would say make it even smaller then. For some, I work with people in a integrated medical care unit, and I'll get people, if they can get up and walk around the block, it's a success because now they're exercising. That's their exercise. It's getting up and walking around the block. And then we'll build on it. You have to have something to build on. And so even if it's a small one in someone else's minds, they're like, what, you just got out of bed? That's a success? Well, for you, it might be a success. So set your goals for you. No one else, they're your goals, not someone else's goals. And don't let someone else make your goals up for you. You have to agree to your own goals. If you don't agree to them, if you don't make your own, you're not going to be vested in it. You're not going to be you're not going to feel as successful with it either. So make your own goals and make them smaller if you have to, but you can do it.
I work,
There's
I work in, go ahead, Terry.
there's another question.
Okay, I just want to finish up one thing.
Go ahead.
When I worked as a psychologist in high schools with kids 14 to 18, I did a lot of counseling groups, and I worked a lot with kids who had special education services. And many of them had very low self-esteem and didn't feel really good about themselves and felt that everybody else was much brighter. And that really wasn't the case. But when they got more confidence in themselves and they had support and somebody helped them with their written language or math or whatever, they could become much more successful. So your mental health and that self-esteem is a really important thing in order to succeed. Go ahead.
So this next question I'm smiling because I think Dr. O'Connor and myself can both kind of feel what you're saying. So I'll read it out so people can hear it. Thank you for the session. Appreciate it. As a working professional pursuing further studies, I have set clear personal and professional goals. However, I often face daily distractions that affect my focus and productivity. Given your expertise, could you please share professional strategies or practical advice on how to effectively manage and overcome these distractions? So, flashing.
Are we talking like ADHD, attention deficit disorder?
So we laugh because we both kind of are afflicted with ADHD. We can get pretty distracted pretty easily, and my colleagues would certainly say that I can get distracted. So I'm going to repeat something that that'll help, but it bears repeating. Make sure you have small goals that you can complete and you feel good about after doing them. I go to the gym every day almost, and I feel good about doing it. That helps with those distractions because I can still get into routine where I'm doing certain things. However, with larger things and where you need more of that focus and that productivity, I find it, and Dr. O'Connor will attest to this, I find it better when I'm working with other people. Dr. O'Connor knows how to pin me down to make sure I get something done. If he wasn't there, I wouldn't get half the stuff done for KOGC that I'd like to get done.
I usually like to have things planned weeks in advance versus 10 minutes beforehand. Okay. Terry and I do a lot of conferences around the world, and fortunately we know each other and we're both fairly bright and have talent. And he'll say, well, we have that presentation in about 20 minutes. And I said, and what are we doing it on? Okay. So you have to have a sense of humor and enjoy that. But talking about the person who wrote it up, it may be an attention deficit disorder, but you know what? People with ADHD, particularly ones who are fairly bright, can be very successful in life. Many of your top actors and politicians are ADHD because they're always so high energy and doing different things. So it can be a blessing and not something that's horrible. What I find for myself, I have to be extremely organized. If it's not written down, it never happened. Okay, so I have a little book that I write everything down. That what am I going to do today? What do I need to get accomplished? So for me, the organization really helps, and acknowledging it, because I think Terry and I both have a lot of energy. It's easy to get fragmented, and so you have to kind of bring yourself back in.
I'm going to share my screen for just a second so you guys can see. This is not factual. I mean, I can't verify that all these people have ADHD, but if you just did a quick search online, you'd see all these people show up. Famous people with ADHD. Bill Gates, right? Paris Hilton, Jim Carrey, Will Smith, Albert Einstein. So what you will find is that a lot of these people do have a verified learning disability.
Oh yeah.
So don't let it feel like it's the end of, you can't do it just because of that. You'll have to work to learn how to use it to your advantage. And
Yeah,
by that,
like
go ahead.
Tom Cruise has learning disabilities. Whoopi Goldberg. I was doing a public service announcement. We were filming actually in Malibu Beach with a very, very famous actor. Okay, and we had to change the cue cards, and he had to break it up because he had a significant reading disability, and I mean, he could memorize scripts, but he could not read, and so he'd have to break it up himself. And so a lot of people who are very successful have learning disabilities, ADHD, and are successful. And there are a lot of people, I know this is not the question, but who have mental health issues with depression and anxiety, and they get counseling or support or group therapy, and or if they have addiction issues, AA or different things like that.
Someone asked about being older, and I have to laugh because they're saying 39 as opposed to 7. You know, they've worked for 17 years, and they have a goal now. Is age a problem? And I can tell you it's not. I mean, Dr. O'Connor and I started this company right after he left his university, or around the time he left his university, and I think that was a little bit after he was 39. So I think we're fine. It's
I, I flunked retirement 4 or 5 times. What can I say? And I'll probably be working until I'm dead. Okay. But what I find is as I got more mature, I had many more opportunities. I was much more confident in myself, much more networking people. And so people would come, oh, in fact, when I was a vice chancellor at the university, one of the deans came and said, oh, wouldn't you love to be an associate professor and teach this, this, and this? And so opportunities come in. So trust me, 39, you are a mere child, okay? And there are many things you can do. I've had friends who went back to medical school when they were 40, okay? So, as long as you wake up in the morning, you can do what you want.
I can tell you that there's some recent research out of UCLA. They do a lot of work with mindfulness, but they did some functional MRIs with people in their what was it, in their 80s, and they were doing mindfulness activities that they hadn't done, like some meditation mindfulness, and they found that they were able to what they noticed were the development of new neurological connections while they were practicing mindfulness activities. So we know that people can learn well into their 80s and still develop connections in the brain that they hadn't had before. This means you're never too old to set a goal. You can always set a goal. Yes, they have to be realistic. If I'm 90 years old and I want to be an airplane pilot for a major airline, that's not realistic. Or if I want to skydive or fly to the moon at 90, that might not be realistic. So yeah, they have to be realistic, but certainly you can make goals. I'm in my 50s, and I have a goal to learn how to sail. I surf all the time, but I'm learning how to sail now, and I'm doing okay. So yes, you can make goals at any age, and you should. It's actually what we know from the research is it's good for people to consistently work on things. I was just telling a group of folks that I was working with in a counseling capacity this week. I was showing them the app called Luminosity, and it has these little brain games that people play. There's a lot of hype about, oh, is this really helping their brains at all? I can tell you from a psychological standpoint, it does help to get the brain, keeping it motivated and trying different things. We know that's healthy for the brain. So it is good to do that at all the way, throughout. There's no age where we can't keep challenging ourselves. So I would say
And
continue to do it for sure.
as you get more mature and stuff, because you gain a lot of skills, you can mentor people. It's good mental health and it's good self-esteem and good confidence with your profession to mentor people or help people in different things like that. And those of you who are from different countries and developing countries, there's a lot of kids you could mentor and do things with. Okay, so uh, age should not be a factor. And Terry points out, like at one time I thought of working for the FBI or something. Well, I think you had to be less than 30. Okay, so it didn't quite make it. So there's some jobs that you couldn't do that would have age restrictions, but overall, we would highly encourage you.
So another one said that they haven't solved procrastination and feeling insecure about issues. So procrastination, I'm going to go back to do small steps. That helps with procrastination. If you have small, and you write them down, what's my small step? If I can do this, I'm going towards my bigger step. You'll get to a point where you don't even have to write it down probably. It's like, oh, I'm going to do this today, and that's working towards my bigger goal. But if you don't break it into smaller chunks, it's gonna be harder to do it.
Let let me address the insecurity thing. You know, as a therapist, I worked with a lot of people who were molested as children or physically abused, different things like that. And one of the things I encouraged them was to take a look at what happened and to deal with it, but not let what happened as a child ruin the rest of their life. I mean, there are some people, because they came from really dysfunctional or they're adult children of alcoholics, and it just perpetuates into their 20s, their 30s, and 40s. You want to break away from that. You deal with it and let go of it. The insecurity, you know, a lot of times is people there, they don't think they're as nice looking as other people, or they buy into people if they've been bullied or something like that. Insecurity is a lot of times worrying about what other people think. And I don't know how I ever got it, but I have never cared what people think whatsoever. I think my wife thinks I'm arrogant, you know, perhaps so, but I just was not concerned. I just wasn't concerned about it. And that will kind of flush out that insecurity. I see Terry smiling. Okay. Yes, I don't have any trouble with that. Sorry.
So yeah, the other thing, seriously, and I think Dr. O'Connor, you pointed to some really good points. If you're feeling insecure, you don't have to do it on your own either. Where you work with other people that you trust and you confide in. And sometimes it's even good to talk to a counselor and just say, hey, listen, why am I'm feeling a little bit, not at ease with this. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so if there's no one you can confide in, then that's where counselors can come in, and you can even do that online and talk to a counselor about what makes you feel insecure. So it depends what it's about, and then we can. If you were my patient, I would want to know what you're insecure about, and then addressing steps to kind of work towards making you feel a little bit more secure about that. I don't know if we're ever going to get to everyone to the point where Dr. O'Connor's at, where people, you just, whatever, I don't care what people think. And I'm a little bit like that myself. I think my family would attest to their embarrassment. But yeah, I think the fact that you can say that is actually really strong. It's actually a very positive thing that you can actually say that I'm feeling insecure. That tells me that you have a bit more security than you think you do, which means you have a lot to work with. How can I encourage my post-grad students to stay focused, especially in meeting the deadlines? Well, I think it goes back to what are priorities. It might be that maybe they are just not that interested in it. And if that's the case, they need to think about that and having that conversation with them. These are the deadlines. If you don't really want to meet these deadlines, do you really want to be in this program? They might say, well, yeah, I need to be in this program. I've done this. I want to do this. I mean, I have people that push me on it, but what I do is I approach my graduates and I'll say, listen, I know you say you want to do this, but I have to ask because you're not doing the things that people are typically doing to get this done. So it makes me think, and it's okay. I'm not trying to judge you at all. Is you sure this is the path you want to take? So maybe there's a different path. It's up to you, but these are the way things are done to get to this point. Everyone else has to do it this way. So I need to see if that's not something you're able to do, maybe there's a different path. I tend to use that kind of language to try to let them know that I'm not trying to judge them. I'm not trying to penalize them. I'm trying to help them decide whether this is truly a goal they want. That's probably my best way to do it. And then, of course, if you're having a lot of people doing it, they're not focused on deadlines at all, then maybe it's to build your own system set up so they're small. We do scaffolding all the time in our classes. So 1 week they're working on this bit of an assignment. The next week they do another little assignment. At the end, they put all the assignments together and they have one big assignment. So we scaffold a lot of what we do on different task. So that's one way to do it, is to help them. The other thing is, doing things like this, where you're doing a presentation on goal setting and trying to make small steps to larger goals and teaching them how to do it as well. So those are a couple suggestions I would have for sure.
And when I was a professor, I'd have students who'd sabotage themselves, okay? And they had other issues going on and they weren't ready to be full-time, say, graduate students or whatever. So you can be empathetic and say, it seems like you're sabotaging yourself or you're not getting this all done. What's kind of going on and how can I help you with that? That way you could kind of be reaching out. I know it's kind of a therapist point of view, but that worked very well. I worked with a lot of military veterans, okay, who had served in Iraq and Afghanistan with PTSD, TBI, and they had trouble, getting things in because they had so much going on, and some of them had to take a break, or instead of 4 classes, they take 2 classes each semester. So reach out and know that you.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post our website where we have our link. If you guys want us to help you, like at your place, or do some kind of presentation or something like that, you can contact us through this link as well, and you can get a hold of
Yeah,
us,
we
and we
do.
can also.
We do workshops all over the world. We did a big one with University of Cape Town on suicide prevention and intervention. We've done ones on disabilities, crisis response, anything from a psychological point of view. We set up, help universities create programs for students with disabilities and or enhance their programs. So look at our website and you'll see a lot of the different things we do, but we'd be happy to help you out. We've worked with, Isanka and his team. Oh, I think I've done 10, 12 years, pretty close. And I do host and chair a lot of their conferences on disabilities and rehabilitation. We're doing one in the end of August in Bangkok. And I'd encourage any of you to maybe, if you're interested in those areas, if you can go in person or do virtual, Zoom, you can do anything these days.
So TIKM also knows how to get a hold of us because we work so closely with them all the time. So yeah, that's totally fine. And I think that was the last question. So if there's no other questions, you guys, it's a pleasure having you guys here. I'm sorry we couldn't get more interaction as far as getting you into breakout rooms and seeing your voices, or seeing your faces and hearing your voices. But I appreciate all the questions you did have and the feedback that we got, and for answering all the surveys that we did, or the couple that we put out there. Thanks for responding to those. Appreciate the interaction, and have a great weekend, guys.
I very much enjoyed meeting with you all and talking. You can get our email if you have individual questions. Sometimes people are shy about, doing it this way, and we'd be happy to do another one. So let us know if we can help out.
I think Denisha wants us to take a photo now.
Yes. So before we officially wrap up, we'd love to capture this moment with a group photo. So if you're comfortable, go ahead and turn on your cameras so we can get everyone's smiling faces in the shot. So I'll give a couple of seconds. You all can switch on your cameras just to take a quick photo, that's all.
I think they're shy.
Maybe.
It's interesting.
I'll just take a screenshot.
Okay.
Can we all smile then?
It'll be an us shot.
Thank you so much. On behalf of everyone at TIIKM Campus, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to Dr. O'Connor and Dr. Kolpin for your valuable time, expertise, and the wealth of practical strategies that you share with us today. We are especially grateful for your dedication in joining us with all of us all the way from the USA and at such a late hour. Well, I know it's past 10 p.m. for both of you all. So thank you so much. Your commitment to empowering and inspiring.
You're most welcome, and have fun. Go out there and surf, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so. Thank you so much for coordinating everything. We greatly appreciate it.
Clearly, absolutely. Thank you.
Have
And
a good day.
a big thank you to each and every one of you for joining us and participating and bringing just joining us. So you all will get a participation certificate within the coming next 2 weeks. We'll keep in touch. And
Will we get one too?
we'll do. Oh, we'll get the certificate.
I would like a round trip ticket to Colombo. Okay, just
Wow. Yeah,
tell
I'll
that
think
to
about
me.
it.
Actually, we'll be in Colombo. We'll be in Colombo probably in the next year, I would think.
Oh, nice. So all the best at the conference, Dr. O'Connor and Dr. Kolpin, in August. And thank you so much for joining, and we'll keep in touch.
Sure,
Thank
for
you.
sure. Take care, guys. All right. Bye-bye.